All right, everybody, welcome back. Here I have one. He says, I was a high earning doctor. Now I'm unemployed, traveling hippie. How did I get here? All right. I have a link to his video down in the description. I kind of have an idea of what this video is going to be about, but I want to let him go into it and confirm or deny what I'm about to say. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Who felt stuck or trapped like I was, living a miserable life, thinking that when they make X amount of money, when they get to a certain level in their career, that they're going to be happy. They keep getting quite emotional about this, but they keep putting it off and putting it off, thinking that later is the time to do it, when later may never come. I've been having a lot of thoughts recently about where I'm currently at, the direction I'm going in, and I'm really grateful for what I'm doing at the moment. I want to make this video for someone who perhaps was like how I was in my previous life. Someone who is looking for a bit more meaning, a little bit more fulfillment. And this video is to help me get a bit of clarity on my own thoughts, and also to help someone who may be in a similar situation that I was a few years ago. Like it says on the tin, I'm currently on a mountain in Colombia, near a small town called Minca, staying in a hut. And it's lovely, but my mind is restless, and I want to talk about some things that I've been thinking about for a little while now. So out of all the things in my life, I think my job has brought me the most misery and the most suffering. Being a doctor is one of those jobs which sounds really cool and awesome, but I think the reality of it is very different to what people assume. So I studied in the UK, I worked for a couple of years in the NHS, and for those 2 to 3 years that I was working in the NHS, I'd say I was probably at my peak of my misery. Now, it's been a while since I worked there, so I'm trying to remember why I was so miserable, and I think there were a few reasons. Firstly, the NHS it's a wonderful thing, providing free healthcare to everyone who lives in the UK. But unfortunately, it's so under-resourced, it's so understaffed, it's a beautiful place, but it's a miserable place to work in. In some ways, I was really envious of all my friends who worked in London in the city, and even though they had probably quite poor work-life balances as I did, at least they were being financially rewarded for it. I remember there was times where I was being paid, especially my first year, less than a Domino's pizza delivery driver on the hour. This and the fact that I was really overworked, overstressed, emotionally drained, just meant that I was living a life that I really hated, and I just couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. When I looked towards my senior colleagues, they didn't particularly live lives that I wanted to live. You're probably thinking, if I hated my job so much, why didn't I just quit? There's a couple of reasons. There's one, the sunk cost fallacy, where you feel you put so much time and energy into something that you need to continue it. Otherwise, that time just goes to waste. Secondly, people always would say that it gets better and better. Once you get to this certain level in your career, or once you make X amount of money, things will get better. Or maybe even once you
And I've heard that about doctors, man, because it's like, that's real, bro. How many years does it have to be? 8 to 14 years. Imagine on year 9, something happens and you're like, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. You can't just leave. You know what I'm saying? You need a career at this. You probably have a lot of debt. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like you're trapped in this career.
retire, things will be better. So you work your whole life, and once you've retired, you can then be happy. So I started looking forward towards retirement, but it was so far away. It was 50 years away. And around this time, I came across a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek. Absolutely ridiculous title. No one can work for 4 hours a week. But there were some ideas in there that really kind of changed my perspective on things. And one concept he talks about is, instead of saving it all for the end, taking mini retirements throughout your life instead. And when you think about it, there's no real reason you can't do this. Certainly it's not the thing that most people do, and it's unusual. But the only difference is you're taking pockets of your money and you're spending them throughout your life rather than spending it all at the end. And not just your money, your time as well. And I guess along those same lines, the patients I met in hospital who worked their whole life and died shortly after they retired. It's not like that just happened once. I've met multiple patients in my life that's happened to. So you could say that.
And that's something I say all the time, bro. It's a scam. Listen, a lot of people think because it works for some, it works for everybody. That's not how this works, bro. Everybody didn't have a slightly demanding job. You get what I'm saying? Most people don't have easy jobs. And so it's like when they finally work their butt off and retire 50, 60 years old, you have 10 years. You know what I'm saying? 10, 15 years. And that's if your body's together. You get what I'm saying? It's like, bro, how does somebody not see that that's a scam, bro? Work your whole life just to enjoy the last 10 years. And you can't even really enjoy it. Because it's like, as you get older, there's a lot of things that you no longer want to do. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to go bungee jumping and freaking paraglide sailing and riding a 10,000 c or not 10,000, 1,000 cc motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that at 70. Come on now. You want a nice luxury place that has the bed massages your back because it freaking hurts. You get what I'm saying? And it's like that's not a vacation to me. That's not a blissful life to me.
Save it for later, but there may never be a later. So after I finished my couple of years working in the NHS, I finished my foundation year. So if you're in the States, that's similar to your internship years. There's quite a natural career break. And I decided I wanted to take a mini retirement in that time. So I spent 6 months traveling Southeast Asia. And honestly, it was one of the happiest periods of my life ever. And I know it sounds super dramatic, but I remember thinking at that time, if I died, if I were to suddenly die, I would be able to die without any regrets. I felt like I had lived my life to the fullest and that I had gotten enough out of it. Looking back now, there's definitely a few more things that I need to do. There's definitely a few more things I would like to do before kicking the bucket, as they say.
And I think a lot of guys have to experience that at least once, where you take an extended period of time and you go somewhere where your money stretches to the point to where you don't have to worry about it. You can just live free without actually looking at the price tag. Now, of course, for guys who are like overspenders, I'm not talking to you, but I'm talking to guys that like you want to enjoy your life. When you, I call it freedom, at least freedom how it's supposed to be. Freedom with money, right? Because you can be homeless and be free, But that, I mean, what is that? But if you're free and you have that money and you're just staying in a nice spot and you're with people who don't want anything, like the things that you worried about just melt away. Once you've tasted that, you're like, yeah, I want this now. I don't want this at 65, 70. It feels right. You feel aligned with the world. I don't know how to explain it.
But at that time, I was genuinely happy with what I'd achieved. But of course, it had to come to an end. The money saved up for those couple of years of working, the money would run out at some point and I would have to go back to work and earn some more money. I'd have to come out of retirement. So I went back to the UK. I started earning again. I started working as a locum. For those of you who don't know what a locum is kind of like a substitute teacher, but a substitute doctor, where you're filling in roster gaps in hospitals where they're short-staffed. It usually means you travel around a lot, filling in these hospital gaps. But the hospital that I was working in my foundation year, my final foundation year, was so short-staffed all the time. They always had roster gaps, so I could always get work there. And I did certainly come back from my travels feeling refreshed, and I was in a lot better place mentally. And I had a big realization at this time, which was the best doctors are the happy doctors. The doctors who are enjoying their job, who are enjoying their lives, are the ones that can really show up for their patients, who can have empathy, who can give the best treatment. I'm not saying that miserable or sad doctors can't be good doctors. They certainly can. And I've met many. But in general, the happiest doctors are the best doctors. When I was doing my locum work back in the UK, I was still very lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was a doctor, but I wasn't specializing in anything. So most people go into a training pathway after they've completed their foundation years. But there was nothing that was really calling to me. And the NHS was still a horrible place to work for. Still super under-resourced, still felt super undervalued. But luckily at this time, I had a good friend, one of my best friends actually reach out to me, who was also a doctor and he had been working in Australia. He kept going on about how good it was, the weather, the money, the girls. It was like something from an in-betweeners movie. And I didn't really have anything else going on, so I made the jump. He got me a job in an emergency department, and I was still at this period of my life where I was unsure whether medicine or being a doctor was for me. After starting work in Australia, for some reason, something just shifted. And for the first time, I started actually really enjoying my job. I wasn't crazy.
Now listen, there's a lot of, because I hear Australia is an expensive country, right? But people that I meet from Australia, they seem to really enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is. Just from the people that I've talked to and seen, it seems like the quality of life in Australia is fantastic. I don't know. Any Australians can deny that or let me know the truth, right? It's just like when I meet Canadians. Canadians have a sense of wholeness within them that I can immediately, besides the accents, I can immediately tell that I'm talking to somebody from Canada versus the United States. I can immediately tell because there's a sense of wholeness when they talk, especially about the things that they talk about and how they talk about it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just that they have that. Canadians have that, and then Australians have a different shade of that as far as like quality of life.
Crazy about it, but I could see myself doing it. I'd come across this rule, which I call the 50% rule. I have no idea where I got this from. I don't know if I made it up myself or if I got it from someone else. Probably just got it from someone else. But my rule was that as long as I was happy 50% of the time, that was enough. Completely impossible to be happy 100% of the time. It's definitely an attainable goal to be happy 50% of the time. We still need to make room for all the other emotions in life, all the pain and the suffering. But I think 50% of the time is something good to aim for. And for the first time, I was happy more than 50% of the time. And I'm not really sure why I enjoyed it so much more in Australia. I think partly it was the respect for doctors in Australia, the respect from the general population, the fact that you're financially compensated for your work, the fact that you don't feel like you're...
Capital One's pre-approval tool puts you in control, easily showing you the credit cards
being put under the gun continuously. Maybe it was even just the lovely sunshine. I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. I was now in a better place. So I continued this for a full year working in the emergency department. I really enjoy working in the emergency department, but at the same time, shift work. Shift work is one of the worst things that you can put your body through, unfortunately. Being sleep deprived, constantly changing your sleep schedule, and I just could not see myself doing it long term. So I started working towards another thing, which was GP, general practice, or family medicine, you call it in America. I started working down that path of getting all the prerequisites for GP. So GP in Australia is usually 3 years training, but you can knock off a year of your training if you do certain hospital rotations. So I was doing all these hospital rotations, like pediatrics, general medicine, general surgery, had already done my emergency time, and I did that for a full year. Then I discovered locum again, but this time locum in Australia, which was even better money, even more flexibility, and it meant I got to fly around Australia, working in different emergency departments across the country, and the pay was just so darn good. I'd already got...
I hear travel nurses, travel doctors make a disgusting amount of money. Listen, if you're a travel nurse or a travel doctor, let us know. I hear they make a crap ton of money versus like regular nurses and regular doctors.
Got a pay rise from moving to Australia, but now my pay as a locum was even more than what it was when I was working as a full-time salaried doctor. In fact, my pay was even more than some consultants in the UK. So a consultant is someone who's completed all the training, they're specialised in something in the hospital, whether that's surgery or medicine or GP. I was earning more money as a kind of junior doctor who was unspecialised as a locum than a lot of consultants back in the UK. But then again, I noticed something. I noticed I was being sucked down this kind of chasing money, materialistic lifestyle, which was quite new to me. Perhaps it was from living in Brisbane, perhaps it was just the people I was hanging around, but having money and earning money was becoming higher and higher up on my agenda. And I became preoccupied with kind of getting up the food chain, jumping back on that treadmill and ultimately joining the rat race again. But one of my favourite quotes from a rapper, of all people, called Lil Dicky, which is, when you be racing them rats, you ain't be making them raps. And what essentially he's saying is, he was also part of the corporate world himself. He was working up that food chain. But when you put so much time into your work, you don't have time to do anything else that's important to you. For Lil Dicky, rap.
I feel like I shouldn't let that slide. He said like a rapper of all people. What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Listen, some rappers got bars. Life-changing philosophical bars, all right? We will not take no rap disrespect over here. But anyways, let me keep going.
Rapping was important to him. And now he's a world-famous, amazing rapper. And for me, I wasn't making my raps. I wasn't doing other things that I wanted to do. For example, working out, creating videos like this. Creating videos to me is what rapping is to Lil Dicky. Don't get me wrong, I like the emergency department. I like working as a doctor. I'm obsessed with health, but I know emergency isn't my true calling, and I'm not going to go down the emergency specialization route. I think now is a good time to enter my fiance. So I had met my fiance a couple of years prior to this, and the first thing that we bonded over was a mutual love for travel. We had both done our own solo trips in Asia, for me in Southeast Asia, and for her in Central and South America. And right from the beginning, we knew that we wanted to travel together. But I started honoring something that had been super important to me, which was making these videos. And I'm so grateful to have found someone who has the same values as me, because we've been able to do this trip, and at the same time I've been able to make these videos. So I'm kind of honouring two things that are really important to me at the same time. I think it's starting to rain a little bit. And I'm not really making any money from these videos, but I really feel a sense of direction. I know exactly what I want to do, and that is to specialise in some kind of preventative and lifestyle medicine, and at the same time work online, make videos, help people through this medium. And I don't think I would have ever come to this conclusion if I hadn't
Digital marketing.
taken my mini retirements throughout my life. Just having space away from work, space to think and reflect on what I actually want. If you're working 80% of your life, you focus all your time and energy into something, it's hard to assess what you really want. You only really can tell through having empty space. And a lot of people would think this is absolutely ridiculous, taking an extended period of time off like this, especially people from my parents or our parents' generation, where you go to work, you work for your whole life, and then you retire at the end. Having a mini retirement throughout your life is just unheard of for a lot of them, and frankly, reckless, irresponsible, and stupid. Thankfully, my parents are quite accepting and supportive of our decision to do this, probably because they are big travellers themselves, even if it is just in short stints in small holidays. But you have to understand, we can't follow the blueprint of our parents anymore, because they lived in different times to us, and times are changing so fast. The world is changing so fast. What our parents did doesn't necessarily apply to us anymore. And before I go on any further, I want to acknowledge my privilege and express my gratitude for my privilege. I'm lucky to have been born in a country, born to the right parents, gone to the right school, have the money to afford a higher education degree, be in a situation where I can do something like this. And I'm fully aware that there's people who are watching this video, people who live in a less developed country, people from the Philippines or any of these other countries I've visited, and they would never be able to do anything like this, simply because they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they would never be able to accrue enough savings to just leave their job. Or there's the mother of two children, the single mother of two children, who has mouths to feed, and she can't take the risk of pursuing her passions, because if she doesn't work and earn money, her kids don't eat. So I appreciate that I'm privileged to be doing something like this, and not everyone can. But you have to ask yourself, if you're unsure if you're one of these people, is it just another bullshit obstacle that you're putting in front of yourself? Or is it actually true? Is you taking a risk of moving to a job that you want to try, or going traveling, or starting a business that you wanted to start, is that really going to put you and your loved ones at risk? And it's not for me to ask you, it's for you to ask yourself. And who knows, I might be wrong about this. And if you think I'm wrong, you can tell me in the comments. That's absolutely fine. I'm open to discuss what I think is quite an important topic. But I guarantee there's at least one person watching this video who has a similar background to me, similar financial situation, similar level of education.
And I'm telling you, listen, it's slowly but surely happening to where people are realizing that staying still and working for, and again, these are people, like he said, these are people who don't have families, who don't have mouths to feed, who aren't struggling, right? They're saying that these individuals are realizing, you know what, I could take my talents online through digital marketing, or even some people with children. I've seen people with children relocate their entire family to a different country. Of course, they're working online or they have some type of online skill, digital marketing. But again, it's like they're doing that because they realize it's like, I'm working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and it's not really enough, but I could work 40 hours a week online and I have more than enough and then some. You get what I'm saying? And so I used to feel this way a while ago, whereas like I would feel bad for people who don't have this opportunity, but or at least has the resources to figure out this opportunity. But it doesn't do me or them any good about dwelling about that. How about I put myself in a great position, and then when I'm in the great position, I can help others? Because in this position, I'm much more valuable, much more useful to these people than me not being in that position to help. Does that make sense? So yeah, I think he's pretty much wrapping up the video here. But listen, this is what I'm talking about. If you guys want to learn digital marketing, just check out the course that I have in the description. I highly suggest you get into it. You can also learn it for free if you want to, but the course that I have, or the course that I promote, is a step-by-step blueprint to let you know exactly the skills and stuff that you need. So I highly suggest you get into that. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you want to subscribe, but let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.